Like, I feel like my biggest issue really is with the lineup construction. I love DJ at the top and Judge second, but I would rather Aaron Hicks lead off and DJ bat third, or Aaron Hicks bat ninth and keep DJ first, Judge second. But
you think he shouldn't hit in the 3? I
no,
think it's a
because
little awkward to have him in the 3.
because you have DJ. DJ's usually going to get a hit or something.
Yeah.
He's going to get a hit, get walk, whatever. Majority of the time, he's going to be on base. Then you have Judge, who is going to walk, hit a home run, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So I get you have Aaron Hicks with the 400 batting average. I mean, not batting average, 400 on-base percentage. So it's like, oh, let Aaron Hicks bat third, because if Judge hits a home run, Aaron Hicks is going to start the next rally, which makes sense. I get it. But
I guess, yeah.
Aaron Hicks does a lot of walk, strikeout, or nothing. Aaron Hicks doesn't hit the ball. I don't think he makes contact. It's literally just walk or strikeout. There's no in between. So
I feel like
it's just weird.
Me personally has never seen Aaron Hicks get a hit from the right side of the plate.
No.
On the left side of the plate, I see him break.
It's basically me in high school. Hit a ball in the 5-hole every time between shortstop and third. I'm not gonna hit a home run. I'm not gonna hit the ball in the gap. Really, it's really just between shortstop and third. I'm gonna get a single
from the right
between
side.
Shortstop and third from the right side. That's Aaron Hicks. It's not often, like I said. Aaron Hicks either strikes out or walks.
You're seeing something a lot different from me. I don't know, bro. Because I mean, Ryu was just manhandling him. Every off-speed pitch, he literally couldn't catch up to it, or he was like way ahead of it. Gary, on the other hand, was seeing everything, like everything. And from lefties, he struggles. Like, he's probably the worst batter in the AL against lefties. But
no. No.
Dude, he hit like .091 against lefties.
Yeah, but that was last year. Gary Sanchez didn't hit anything last year. Righty, lefty, Pat Venditti. He's not hitting anything.
So that makes him the worst batter in probably all of the AL.
This year, he's not going to be that bad. I can tell you that for a fact.
No. I'm not saying he's going to be bad this year. Well, let's not jump the gun. He had one good game. He all around did great. He was the only offense really for the Yankees.
The bottom of the lineup did all the damage. Clint Frazier had like 3 hits. Jay Bruce
2 hits.
They were both singles. Jay Bruce did nothing, but it was just Gary Sanchez and Clint Frazier.
Gio Urshela did nothing.
Nobody did anything. I think
that's the
Glaber had 1 hit.
Glaber had 1 hit.
Stan went 0 for 5. Judge went 0 for 4. DJ went 0 for 4 or 0 for 5. Like, everybody was horrible.
Though. That was his one good thing. So did Hicks. Hicks had a walk. Glaber had a walk and a hit. Well, I didn't even see that.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like there should be 2 different lineups. I'm kind of on your side. Against lefties, bat Aaron Hicks 7th. Just get him out of the 3-hole against lefties. Against righties, like you said, Aaron Hicks will hit you a home run against a right-handed pitcher.
Yeah.
He'll hit a bomb, or he'll walk, or he'll, whatever. Against righties, it's a little single in a 5-hole, which doesn't really do anything because Giancarlo is either going to strike out or hit into a double play. So it's like, against righties, I would bet DJ 1, Judge 2nd, and then Glaber or Voit when he comes back. Like, just mix something up. Against lefties, I get it. But Aaron Boone's whole thing is, I want consistency. I want people to know they're going to bat in the 1-hole and the 2-hole and the 3-hole every game. And it's like, that's cool. That's cool.
He wants consistency
I agree.
in the lineup, but that doesn't mean consistency in the game, like hitting wise.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to get a bunch of dead rallies, but you can't even like blame Aaron Hicks because Judge ended the inning like 8 different times.
Yeah.
All we know, Aaron Hicks could have came up and hit a grand slam.
Yeah. I mean, he puts a lot of blame on himself always. We talked about that before. I think he struggles too much, like, still with those weird sliders, those like out and away sliders. He doesn't see the ball that well. Like, overall, his bat could be so much better. His bat, if he was swinging like a cricket bat, like the length of a baseball bat, but like the width of a cricket bat, he'd probably be fine. But like a regular baseball bat in that man's hands, he just turns into some average guy. Like we all want him to be like this larger than life player, and he like
But
literally is.
he's legit.
He's a great, like he could be a great baseball player. Right now he's a
He is
good
a
baseball
great
player.
he's
He
a
had a great
great
rookie
baseball player.
season that has never lived up past that.
Wait,
And
whoa, wait.
come on.
Aaron Judge
Yes, like bro,
with no,
2017 Aaron
let
Judge, compare that
hear
to
me
any
out.
other season he's been.
Hear me out. Without 2017, Judge is still top 12 in WAR in all of baseball since 2018, and he's only played half the games. Judge is still a top 10
Right,
baseball
but
player.
like okay, war yes, like he is like one of the top baseball players statistically. But when it comes to the actual game, like you come to like actual points in like
Don't say it. Don't say it.
yes, yo, he's not
Don't say it,
clutch,
please.
like he's not like
Oh my
the
god.
go-to guy like for the
He
at
might not
bats
be
that you
clutch
need.
regular season, but in the postseason, what does he do? Every
Oh, in the
year he hits 3 or 4
postseason, no,
home
no, no, no.
runs.
In the postseason, he comes up clutch, especially early on. There might not even be a need to be clutch sometimes because he will get you to where you need to early on. I haven't seen because we all know what he did in that rookie year. It kind of makes it makes it feel like less like production, right? His
Yeah,
WAR,
it feels like it.
aside from his rookie year, is still really high. That's not something to like laugh at, but obviously like he doesn't feel like the same player that we were watching in 2017.
And you know why? Because he's always hurt. But if you look at the numbers, he
I wouldn't
played
even
80
blame his
games.
injuries.
He played 80 games in 2018, hit 28 home runs. He played 100 games in 2019, 28 home runs. He had 9 home runs in like 7 games in 2020 before he got hurt. Like
Before
Aaron
2020,
Judge is still a top 10 player in baseball. It's
those
just that
other
you don't
two
see
years,
enough
his
of him.
strikeouts go up.
He led the league in strikeout. He leads. That's what he does. He's going to
Okay,
strike
but
out.
like that makes you like not that great of a player if you're
You
striking
know
out
who
like
else
almost
is
200
also?
times a season, bro.
You know
Like
who else strikes out a lot? Mike Trout. And you know who else is the best player in
it's
baseball?
not
Mike
as
Trout.
okay. You're comparing two guys one guy strikes out almost 200 times. One guy
And Mike
strikes out
Trout struck out
maybe
like 145,
140,
150
150
times.
times. Bro, come on. That's all right. It's a
When
lot. But
people
you
are
look
looking
at
at you
his
as the
at
greatest of
bats.
all time and you strike out 150 times a year. You know how many times Mickey Mantle struck out in a year? Like 40 times at
Bro,
most.
the baseball at that time was basically like a piece of foam and strings put together. Like nobody was striking out with that. You got listen, Mike Trout is a different type of player only because the amount of at bats he gets and the quality of every at bat that he gets onto. Most of those at bats turn into hits despite all those strikeouts. Aaron Judge, and it's probably because like we see him more. Most of his like especially the clutch ones, like for my like case, aside from even today, he strikes out a lot. He looks at the same pitches and pitchers not tip him, but they give him the same routine of just like high inside fastball, outside slider. It's becoming almost like too easy to pitch to him. And then
And
it turns into what like, we've seen the last couple of years.
if I had to choose who's at bats, I would rather want Mike Trout or Aaron Judge. I would rather have Aaron Judge at bats. But I do agree with you with the outcome. If I had to choose whose I would rather have at the plate, 100% Aaron Judge. Because Aaron Judge would be 0-2 and make you throw 10 pitches to get it back to 3-2. He might strike out, but Aaron Judge is gonna get to 3-2.
I
Almost
don't know
every
about
at bat.
that.
I don't get it. Almost every at bat, that man is 3-2.
He can fight. He's not as bad as Stanton. Stanton will 1-2-3
Oh,
you
1-2,
for 50
fastball
straight at
up,
bats.
fastball up, strike 3, fastball up,
Fastball high and inside, slider low and
slider in the
away,
dirt,
and he'll swing
strike
at all
3.
three and miss. Judge, he has a better eye. He has a good
Judge has
eye.
top 5
He,
eye in baseball. It's him, Mike
he
Trout, Aaron
just
Hicks,
his at bats
and Brett
become
Gardner.
very routine because he swings and like hacks at the same pitches. He always
well,
goes
and
for the
then
low and away slider. He always goes
what
for the
else
high
does that
inside
go back
fastball.
to? He has the biggest strike zone in baseball. You can't expect
Yes.
he has to
Okay.
swing at the down and away pitch because he's gonna get that called on him as a strike every time. So that's why
I
he
think
has to
umpires have
expand.
been super unfair to him throughout his whole
Oh,
career. That's a
100%.
definite. That's a definite. I just think that maybe he should adjust a little more
No,
to what
can't. He
pitchers are
can't.
throwing to him. I think he has to. That's the only
He
way.
can't.
Because
He literally cannot.
then he stays the same player that we're looking at. Like he's gonna
Still
go
a
through the
top five
same
player in
routine.
baseball.
He's gonna
That's
go
fine
through
with
the
me.
same routine,
Fine
inside,
with me.
inside,
The
outside.
top five player in baseball. That's fine with me. Of course, you would want him to go to hit bat 350, but that's no one's hitting 350 unless you're DJ LeMahieu or Juan Soto. No one's hitting 350 in baseball anymore.
At
So
350 is asking a
you
lot. It's asking
it's
a lot,
asking a lot
definitely.
for
Yeah,
anybody. If you
I
brought
know.
Ted Williams and dropped him into baseball today, he wouldn't hit 350. Maybe that's cap on my end, but he probably still would not hit 350. He probably would hit 325, 330.
In like modern day MLB
Yeah,
baseball.
if you took Ted Williams and just said, "Hey, you're playing baseball in 2021 with 102 and a slider that starts at your head and ends up down and away, a slider, not even a curveball, a slider that can start at your head and down and away, and then you have Darren O'Day coming from the side throwing 80, 85 miles an hour every fastball and 78 every slider, and you still can't hit it."
He throws you one fastball that comes rises up, and you're like, oh. And then he throws everything in the dirt, and you're like,
In the dirt, I'm telling you. Like
where
when
are these things?
Ottavino said that thing 2 years ago, talking about I could strike out Babe Ruth, he probably would more times than not.
Yeah,
I can
it's
tell you,
funny because
Babe Ruth
people
was not
always
seeing
make those
that frisbee.
comparisons. It's so like out of like it's a little like crazy to have that kind of comparison. Like how would an old player fare against a newer guy? And you do it like based on like their overall statistics. Like in theory that works because you're looking at what they actually did. But the truth is like players now would dominate like
Oh,
anybody
not even
20
close. They
years
would.
before
Oh,
their
they would
like prime.
violate. No, wait, maybe not 20 years ago.
I
The
think
game
like anybody
correlates.
before I think anybody before like 1990. Yeah, no. That's 30. Wow, I'm still in like 2010 though.
Yeah.
But yeah, about like pre 1990, I'd say a lot of those players, the like 98% of those players would be bad baseball players in 2021.
They would be. I wouldn't go as far to say bad, but they would
I'd
be
say
middle of the
bad.
road. Like let's take like Bob Gibson for example.
Oh,
Bob
okay.
Gibson would still be filthy in today's baseball. He still would be throwing 98, 99 with a nasty wipeout slider. He's still
Pitchers is a little
yeah.
easier to get to
Sandy
because if you
Koufax
have
would still
yeah,
dominate. Like
Nolan Ryan, like prime Nolan Ryan would be like
prime Nolan Ryan would be the best
sinking
pitcher in baseball
everybody.
today.
Yeah, he'd be retiring batters at a rate that like nobody would have ever
Yeah.
seen before,
He
especially
struck out
nowadays.
5,000 back then when people
Yeah.
weren't striking out like that. In today's world, he would have 10,000 strikeouts. He would strike out
You've
600 a
doubled.
year.
It's with pitchers, it's a
So,
little easier because like as long as they got the velocity and the control and
yeah.
like it's there consistently, you would be a good player like any really like decade.
Oh, yeah.
Except maybe like Cy Young. Cy Young would probably get like
Zion would
rocked.
get lit up. Oh,
He's pitching at what, like 1890, like 1880.
Cy Young threw like a 98 mile an hour fastball, and everything else was 70 miles an hour.
You
He would
oh,
get lit up.
I wish I could
Oh my
find the
god.
video. I saw a guy play like an older MLB The Show, but like tried to recreate Cy Young and like
Oh my
was
god.
like, okay, I'm gonna go based off like his what like the statistics say. Like he only had like a 84 mile per hour fastball and like a curveball that went like it was basically like an ephus, and people were just striking out in 18 like 90 just on that. But he tried to recreate him, and he got pulled after like two starts. Like he couldn't
It's
keep
like,
him in games longer than like an inning.
yeah.
He was like, "No, this is the worst idea ever."
Oh
He cut the whole
man.
thing short. Like it was so funny.
Oh man. Like even in MLB The Show, like Cy Young,
Mhm.
not to use that card
No, don't use.
because you're not getting past 2 innings. It's like, and he's a 99 every year because he leads. He's the number
He's
one
Cy
win leader of
Young.
all time.
Like you can't.
500
He's his.
something wins. The award
Yeah,
is named after him.
yeah.
But
He's
you use that card, you are it's like putting the ball on a tee. You're getting teed off on, and it's not even close. So yeah,
Oh my god.
let's get into it
Shout
though.
out.
This is episode 12.
This is episode
Episode
12. I was gonna put on my
12.
Tom Brady jersey for this one, bro, because
Oh
the
no.
greatest of all time. He just had to show out. But
Oh no.
it's opening day,
Opening day.
the first day of baseball in 2021.
Telling you. Big
Crazy.
W's all around except for the Yankees.
Yeah, and the Dodgers. A couple other teams.
Yeah, but I don't care about the Dodgers.
World Series.
I'd rather not face them in the World Series. So I hope they lose every game for the rest of the year. Frankly.
Where's
I like
Mike
easy
Francesa?
roads to the win.
You're gonna ask Mike Francesa, well, what's the chances of our team going 162-0 this year? First time, long time. He hangs up on you in like 2 seconds. Yeah.
Oh,
It's called
man.
moron. Just before we get into the opening day antics, just the night before opening day,
Yeah.
Francisco Lindor under, let's say, huge scrutiny.
Yeah.
If he doesn't sign a contract with the Mets, he's putting pressure, major pressure on the Mets. He says, if you don't sign me, I'm walking. I will walk to the 7 train right outside Citi Field, take the 7 to Grand Central, up on the 5 to the Bronx, and I will walk into Yankee Stadium and ask for a new contract. And he won't get one. And he won't get one. Luckily, the Mets had, Steve Cohen more specifically had a better plan for this. Made Francisco Lindor a Met for 10 years, 340.
He would have been a Met regardless.
$1 He would have been a Met regardless of,
like, after this year, even in free agency, no team needs a shortstop right now. So he would have got signed by the Mets anyway. Yeah, Cleveland, but imagine Cleveland now giving him all that money. That would have been hilarious.
He gets $1 million more than Fernando Tatis, which is
10 years, 341.
Pretty, it's pretty sweet.
That's pretty like FU-ish. That's basically what he said.
It's a little. I was gonna like mention it, but you know what? It's sweet. It's nice to like be able to do that. You get like a guy who did it the other day. Trent Williams, the left tackle, or
yeah, left tackle.
Yeah, for the Washington San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
Signed a contract that was like $500,000 more than David Bakhtiari, who had just signed an extension as the largest contract for an offensive lineman.
Yep.
David Bakhtiari added him on Twitter. He's like, "The hell, man? What do you think this is? This is a game?" And yeah, it's a little FU-ish, but it's cool to say. It's like, oh, you got your
next contract,
Lindor. Yeah.
If I'm Lindor, I'm calling up Tatis, and it's like, hey Tatis, I don't lose $30 million on this contract either. Exactly. I'm the best shortstop in baseball. Who do you think you are? I am.
Who do you think you are? I am.
Oh man, good times.
If we can get into the opening day stuff, though, obviously, we're all super excited to have baseball back. It's a little more normal than, just a regular irregular 60-game season. We have the full 162 coming at us this season. Yankees start opening day against the Toronto Blue Jays. Got a 3-game series. First game, got the aces on the mound. Hyunjin Ryu, Garrett Cole. Ryu looked pretty good today. Had a lot of Yankees bats just slipping and sliding everywhere, except one. The Kraken. He got the back. He got that bat cracking today.
Man.
Yo.
His pimp no doubter is amazing. He
holds the bat in the air and he's just like, take it in New York.
Oh man.
Take it in.
Beautiful.
He just drops it.
Beautiful sight.
Nice slow stride around first base. First pitch he saw, he said, I didn't need any at-bats before this. I didn't need no warm-up pitches. I just saw exactly what Cole was throwing me all game so far. Let me just take this one. Let me just yank this one to left field. And that's what he did. He got a 2-run shot. Gleyber Torres was on base from a walk prior to that. They took the 2-1 lead. And it was basically downhill from there for the Yankees bats.
Yeah, basically.
They got on base, and they did not produce. So nothing changed.
Nothing changed.
Nothing changed, Yankees fans. I think I saw this that it was 10 people on base they left overall, and 13
Five
Ks.
by Judge alone.
He had a bases loaded situation no, bases loaded situation one
Once.
time, and then a man
And
on
then
first and second
first and second, yeah.
in the ninth.
That was the
Ninth.
10th.
Was that the 10th? No, that
Yeah.
wasn't to end the game. To end the game, it was those
No,
three,
that was the
three
7th. That was the
strikeouts.
7th. He
Seventh was
ended
the
the
bases
game.
loaded. He ended the game in the ninth.
Yeah, no, in the 10th with first and second, run on first and second.
No, because he was on second. Remember with the intentional runner
Oh
on
yeah,
second?
that was the 9th. And that was it. Didn't end the
Then
game
it
though.
was the ninth.
That's where it was. That's where the confusion
Yeah.
came. Yeah.
Yeah. But regardless, like, they lose 3-2 in extras. They lose kind of in an intentional runner on second base for extra innings. How do you feel about that?
It's fine with me to a certain extent. I don't think it should be the 10th inning because if you're tired of baseball and it's only the 10th inning, then there's a problem. If you can watch an extra 5 minutes of basketball overtime, that takes 30 minutes to get through those
An
5
extra
minutes
5 minutes
usually.
of football, an extra 5 minutes of
An
basketball,
extra 15 minutes of football, and nobody cares about that. You can watch one extra inning of baseball.
Oh,
calm down.
Come on
now. Now, if we're getting to the 12th inning, then you can say, all right, let's get this over with. Runner on second. But for it to be immediately 10th inning, and then you see what happens. First batter against Michael King hits a rope to right field, and it drops. And where are we now? 3-2 immediately.
3-2.
And then what does Michael King do?
It was against Nick Nelson.
That was Nick Nelson?
Yeah.
Okay,
because I remember how bad it looked. Regardless, like it looked so bad for him, only because he gets his first start out there.
That looked like Michael King.
No, it does. It does. But it was Nick Nelson. I specifically remember because I literally said in the ninth, who is this guy? And I had to look him up. I did a whole thing.
King. Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah, no,
regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless, what did he do right after that? Struck out the side like a boss. He dominated them after that. But you get that one pitch, and it's like all he would have been on second. He just would have been standing on second. What would have happened after that? Strikeout. Now we're in the bottom of the 10th. Yankees are good. And what did we do after that? What happened after that? We had people on base. I had that walk to start the inning. Granted, everything bad happened after that, and of course we can't hit. Everybody wants to hit a home run, but
it was Hicks, Stanton, and Torres. Final 3 outs of the game. We were out 3-2.
I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine with the rule, but not in the 10th inning. I think it needs to come in like when the game is getting long. 10th inning, if you can't, like I said, if you can't stay for one extra inning, you're bugging. Plain and simple, you're bugging. You're not a real baseball fan, and that's the difference. People are, we got to keep the baseball fans. Okay, keep the baseball fans.
Yeah, the 10th inning doesn't really. That's it's a good point. It's an honest point.
An extra 10 minutes. You can't say.
I think people who watch baseball are even like, like that's it. Like I kind of feel like cheated out if I went to a game and that's what that was.
Even the Blue Jays aren't happy with the rule, and they won. They're like, well, this rule is trash.
Listen, that's not even to say baseball doesn't need to be changed. Like we obviously need to make things to make the game faster and to make the game more appealing, more competitive. This does add a level of competition to the game. It's just not the right way to go about it. Like you're basically
I'd rather do something else.
You're basically giving teams like a free pass at a run almost. Then of course you have the Yankees who just squander that opportunity. You literally give them the one way that they can't score with a runner on base. Let it just be if you had the Yankees just come out with nobody on base and 2 outs, they'd probably win you the game just because they could do that. Just because they could come back and win.
Low-key, I would rather them say something stupid like make the extra innings 4 outs than for them to put the runner on second base. You feel me? You got to get 4 outs now. I'd rather that than put a runner on second base because there's no double, or put the runner on first so that you can still keep the double play. You put a runner on second, anything could go wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan. If it was the 12th inning, I get it. Put a runner on second base because the game is starting to take too long now. Like I'm a
Yeah.
baseball fan. I stayed up for that 18 inning game in Chicago in 2017. I was up 4 o'clock in the morning, just sitting there glued. That's me. That's just me. I watched them
Most
college games
most
from back in the
both
day with 6 overtimes. I'm good. I'm
most
gonna be
baseball
there.
fans are good with that. Most sports fans like extra innings over time. They like to see that extra level of competition. This past weekend, you had UCLA and Michigan going to an overtime, and it like the last 10 seconds of the game were neck and neck. Like it came down to Michigan missing like three shots in the last 10 seconds consecutively. And like that level of competition adds to it. In baseball, when you have a team in extras that just blew it in the top of the inning, gave up 2, 3 runs, and they come back, they fight back and win in extras, normally nobody on base, you start whenever. That's beautiful. That's
Yep.
beautiful. It's wonderful to watch because it almost gives you both sides of like the perfection and imperfection of like the sport itself. Like anything
Yeah.
could possibly happen in baseball. Why mess up like that kind of chance by
Yep.
giving like a free pass? It's weird. I personally don't like it that much at all. Like I understand a 12 inning game gets too long. Regardless, I'd like to see how it plays out. I like to see the position guys come in the 19th inning and just
Yeah.
start throwing meatballs. It's
It's
fun.
fine with
It's
me until one of them
fun.
gets hurt, and then I get tight.
that's that's when it gets bad. But you like to sit like Ichiro always wanted to do it. You got to see Ichiro do it one time and one
Loki,
time
Ichiro could
only.
pitch in the majors right now.
Oh,
I think he today
if he
can still throw like
develops a
93 miles
slider,
an hour. He's
he's a good
Ichiro.
pitcher.
He's out of Japan. Ichiro could probably throw an ephus and a slider at the same time with both hands, like, and it would probably both be 87 miles an hour. It's
Hey,
Ichiro we're talking about.
there was one thing that I saw you were pretty like upset about. It was Yankees fans first game back, and despite their mishaps, they're booing at Yankee Stadium
Booing.
already.
Oh my God, booing, booing! Your first game in over a year, and you're booing? Are you kidding me? Giancarlo could have struck out with the bases loaded 5 times today, and I probably would have cheered. If I was in the building, you're kidding. You're booing. You're out of your mind.
Oh,
Your first
New
game since
York.
October 2019, and you're booing.
New
Come on
York.
now, bro. You're
And as
wilding.
much as I want to give it to like, New Yorkers being New Yorkers, like, it is your first game back. And I understand like last season was a dud. You didn't get to go to the stadium. Season before you kind of got, like the Astros effect. I don't know. It's fun to be at the ballpark. Booing is part of the game. I'm not gonna give him too much. You know what actually pissed me off the most? Did you see when Judge caught that ball in foul territory and the guy
Oh, and the
reached
guy tried to take
over
the
and
ball out
tried
of
to
his hand.
rip the ball out of his glove? I literally like got in front of my chair, was like, "What's that guy doing?" I thought he was gonna like attack him. I thought he was gonna like
somebody was
swing
like,
or
somebody was
what
like,
is he
and guess who
doing?
won that war? Guess who won that battle? Yeah,
It was
Aaron Judge,
Judge.
exactly.
My dad said, "What if he had just taken the baseball and beamed it through that guy's face?" I would not have like said anything about that. If that
Nope.
was like my best friend and Aaron Judge did that to him, he deserved it.
Somebody was like, he needs to get ejected because he could have hurt him. He like almost pulled his glove off. He
No,
could have
he
hurt him.
almost pulled his glove off. Yeah, like it, and not even to the fact that like that could have hurt him, but that's literally like interference. Like we still in a pandemic. First of all, nobody knows
Exactly.
where that man has been. Come on, bro. Like, could you imagine you get a report tomorrow, like a ESPN alert tomorrow?
Don't even
Aaron
say
Judge.
it. Don't even say it.
Let's move on to the next topic. Well, there's not really
Oh
next
man, I
topics.
would be. Oh man, I'd
Oh,
be
just yo.
Steve Bartman Part 2. He would never be able to show his face in New York again.
He's gonna get a 30 for 32 just because of that in like 20 years. Stop it!
Oh
Stop
man.
it! Stop it!
Oh
All
man,
right,
that's
let's
hilarious.
just wrap up the opening day news. The Phillies and the Brewers actually did good in extras, or really in their respective games. One on walk offs. Didi had a really nice catch, just like an over the shoulder, like went off his chest into his glove, kind of like sliding catch, real nice. Miss you, Didi. The Brewers ended up winning on a walk off. Who was that? Lorenzo Kane sliding
Lawrence
to home
okay,
plate.
yeah.
Very close play at the plate. The
Phillies went
World
on a walk
Series.
off too, yeah, with
Yeah, yeah.
Gene
Oh,
Segura.
with Gene Segura, he just ran
Yeah.
around the bases going like
You know,
that. It
he's
was weird.
big. He's
Yo,
a
he's like
large dude. I thought he was skinny. Jeans
no,
the girl is
he's like
built like me.
yeah,
I was like,
he's like
gee.
built. He hits the
I was
gym,
like, I was
bro.
shocked.
The World Series champs, reigning World Series champs, LA Dodgers lost to the Rockies today. I don't know if you saw, but Red Sox legend Daniel
Daniel
Bard
Bard,
came
23 GOAT.
out.
I mean, 2013 GOAT.
I haven't realized he pitched last year,
Yeah,
but it
he was
was like the
actually nice
first time
too.
he pitched. It was the first time he pitched in like 7 years.
Yeah,
They said he
since
had the
20, I think
yips.
2014 or 2013.
Yeah, 2013,
Yeah,
I think I saw, and that was in Boston. Still, he had
yeah,
been in a bunch of minor league deals after that. They said he had the yips, which is like when athletes just lose all their
all
ability.
talent. It's just they
Yeah,
can't do
all.
anything. Yeah,
And he was actually a good pitcher too, especially in
he was
Boston. Like,
nice. Yeah,
he was a Yankee killer, pretty much.
yeah.
Um,
You know what's funny though?
Goes
In
out,
that
K's Mookie
game,
Betts with the bases loaded, like to end the
did
game.
you see what happened earlier in that game?
I did.
Cody
I tuned in
Bellinger
a
hits
little
an
late.
absolute missile. Oppo
Yo, wait, okay, I saw
and the guy
that.
the guy robs it, right? And while he's robbing it, he catches it, the ball flips out his glove, and Justin
It just
Turner
rolls
turns
out,
around and heads right back to first base.
head down.
And Cody Bellinger like, stop, go back,
Turn
go
around.
back. And he's
Turn
like, no. And he's like, what are you doing? So Cody Bellinger only gets credit for uh um
He gets an RBI
RBI
single.
single.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my god, watch at the end of the year, he's gonna be like one home run off the MLB lead, and he's like, oh, so
He's for a
sad.
triple crown. He's gonna
Yeah,
get a triple
if
crown,
he
the home
loses a
run.
triple crown over that, I'm gonna be dead. Oh man, it's gonna be hilarious. And then another thing, another game, not that game, but that game was intense. I watched the end of
Yeah.
it. Daniel Bard, that Mookie, he didn't K Mookie Betts. He had like a little looping line drive to the
Oh
second
yeah. No,
baseman.
Mookie Betts was fighting, and he was fighting off like 100
Yeah,
mile per hour pitches
yeah,
too.
yeah,
That was crazy. He didn't K Mookie Betts. He hit a little soft liner to second base
yeah, to
to
the second
end the
baseman.
game.
But
That
a
was it was so
different
good.
game. One of probably my favorite moment of the day was other
Detroit.
than Gary Sanchez, but my guy Miguel Cabrera hits an
Yes.
absolute missile.
A
Apo Taco,
bomb.
vintage Miguel Cabrera. Can't see the ball in the
Wow.
blizzard, so
Because
he
it's a
slides into
yo.
second base.
He slides to
Slides into
second base. He
second
looks
base.
at the umpire. He's like,
Everybody's like, Homer. He's like, home run?
he
Okay.
just takes off to home plate.
Oh man, good times,
It's
man.
just stuff you never see. I
Look,
mean,
I love baseball.
snow and opening day has never been like too much of
Yankees
a
were the
weird
last one, I
thing.
think.
I think it was like 2018 or 19. They had snow, but usually in the north, like or in Colorado, Minnesota, most of those teams have gotten snow in like April.
Yeah.
Detroit, Chicago's. Um, yeah, it's funny to watch, especially because like the umpires like don't call the game because it's just a weird form of precipitation. Like it's
Yeah.
not steady rainfall that's gonna like drench everything.
Eventually, yeah.
It's just
You just play
like
through.
light fluff that will eventually melt in like hours that
Yeah,
will
but
mess up the
it wasn't
field.
even cold enough to like stop
Yeah.
the game,
Yeah, no. It was a clean like 30, like 7, 38. Like the
and
snow
that's
was falling,
October.
but it was just melting. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's funny stuff to see in baseball. Listen,
Yep.
opening day stuff. Really happy that it's back. Can't wait for the rest of the season. Yankees will obviously pick up the pace. The batting will be there. The pitching was there. Cole was good today. Hopefully it just translates to the rest of the guys. Where it's at.
I said it in my recap. The only thing I learned today was that the Yankees will not go 162-0. That's the only thing I learned. Yeah,
It hurts sometimes to realize facts, right?
it's not.
They hit
It
hard.
was impossible to do it regardless, but now we know for sure they cannot go 162-0.
It might have looked impossible. It's probable. It's possible, but it's not probable. That's what I
Not
meant to say. It's
probable.
possible.
Yeah.
It's not probable. Regardless, we wanted to kind of highlight this episode today. Outside of the amazing baseball stuff that's going on, even right now, we still got a couple games going. Just recapping a couple of the things that we've talked about in the NBA in the past, more specifically with the Brooklyn Nets. Shane, your team has basically taken this year by storm, and whether they're all playing, one is playing reduced minutes, one is celebrating a birthday, but will be back next week.
Not even like
We've kind of
he's
seen
not
how
low.
how the super team, the big trio of KD, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving have kind of molded this Brooklyn team into like this almost almost like nightmarish like team to have to play. Because when you look at some of the names on the roster, you kind of, remember where some of these players are. You have LaMarcus Aldridge, former, all-star dominant big man, Blake Griffin, former all-star dominant big man, DeAndre Jordan, quote unquote same thing. Just again like a list of guys mixed in with some very very good like six man shooters, backup guys who can just hold the game for you, into this team that really like a lot of teams and a lot of fans are dreading just because of like their sheer superpower.
I feel like people blew away out of proportion because if you look at the team, the roster, there's
Yeah,
only there's only three studs,
it's the three
and it's the
studs.
big three.
Yeah, it's the big
Everybody
three.
else, everybody else everybody. All the fans were complaining that everybody else on this roster was washed.
Right, right.
So even Blake Griffin, he tweeted out, he was like, up until a month ago, all I could hear was how bad I am at basketball. I
He'll
put
never
one
dunk
dunk in, and now
again.
people
Yeah,
say it's a super team and we're
right.
overkill. Like I thought I was washed.
LaMarcus Aldridge hasn't played well, he started today, but before today had not played a minute for your team and was already drawing like, oh, he's ring chasing. He was terrible in
Well, he
San
is.
Antonio. He's ring chasing. He was pretty bad in San Antonio, but he's getting like the same treatment like that Blake Griffin is getting, that DeAndre Jordan was basically getting with the Nets for the last couple of years. It's kind of been like this, you know, anytime you step into like let's talk Nets territory, or anytime we want to bring up some of the better teams in basketball, you have to put like an asterisk or like give special privilege to the Nets whenever you talk about them. It's kind of the same way that like with the Warriors when you saw them in 2016, 17, 18, 19, well more 17, 18, 19 with KD. You looked at this team with four All-Stars, five when Boogie got there in 2019. That was like, oh, you can't pick this team, and you can't in 2K, you can't watch this team. Nobody's gonna want to watch their games. It's too powerful. They're just gonna go to the finals and do like what about that makes basketball less entertaining? If
Once
anything,
again,
if anything,
once
it's
again,
wonderful.
LaMarcus Aldridge is still like he might be reinvigorated right now because his team can actually win the chip. When he was
True.
on the last couple of years on the Spurs, he knew there was no shot. Once Kawhi left and it was just him and DeMar, he knew they had no shot.
Yeah.
So that's probably
And
why
despite
Blake
them
Griffin the
actually
same
like
way.
Yeah,
Pistons are
despite them
trash.
actually having some kind of like mesh in playoff talks with San Antonio, it was never long lasting. It was always like,
Yeah, it
you're
was
gonna make the
always
playoffs,
first or second round, and
you're
you're
gonna
gonna
get
get
out in the
bounced.
first round. Yeah. But yeah,
But
you're absolutely
that's
right.
my biggest thing. When you look
Yeah.
at the Nets roster, before Blake Griffin and DeAndre and LaMarcus Aldridge got there, it was you had James Harden at the one, Kyrie at the two,
Hmm.
Bruce Brown at the three, uh, Joe Harris playing the four, and DeAndre Jordan at the five to
Hmm.
start. And then you have Jeff Green, who was really the four man, and then the small man five.
Sometimes kind of
Um,
switching out with DJ. Yeah,
yeah.
that's true.
So it's like you look at that team, you're like, we were still dominating. But
It's a
if you look
good
at that
team,
roster, is that roster
of
good?
course.
Really? No. It's really just two studs and then low key studs. Like Bruce Brown is it locks, and Bruce Brown is the energy guy. He's basically a non-annoying Patrick Beverly. He's gonna lock you, and he's gonna do it in a way where you don't hate him. And then you
Hmm.
have Joe Harris, who's gonna knock down a three consistently. His shooting slump is 43%, which is elite for
Not
everybody
even
else.
bad. How's that a slump?
So no, that's elite
That's what I'm
for
saying.
your
How is
bad
that a slump?
stretch. That's what I'm saying. That's his
I
slump.
know. I know. Yeah, I
so
know.
so people don't get it, and it's like, yes, we got Blake Griffin. Blake Griffin hasn't been good in like 3-4 years. LaMarcus Aldridge hasn't been good in 3 years. LaMarcus
Yeah,
Aldridge just has
those
he's
are
not the
facts.
focal
Yeah.
point now. So
No.
people
Yeah.
have to stop being that person. Like, yes, we have a bunch of names, like you said, but names don't win
Yeah,
championships.
yeah,
Names
exactly.
don't win chips, and that gets me tight because people are like, "Oh, you guys have a bomb squad." Like, do we?
It's
It's just
mostly
the
just
three
three
guys
guys. Yeah, it's mostly, and that's what it was in Golden State prior to KD getting there. It was the Splash Brothers, Stephen
and
and
Draymond.
Clay and Draymond. It was technically a super team. You got three starters who are all stars, all pros, top like 20s, maybe even at their positions, probably like top 10s. But even still, like
Oh, they were
nobody
all
looked
three
at
of them were
them
top five at their position at the time.
in 2015, 16, 17.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. Yeah. In their positions, respective positions. Yes. But aside from that, like you're looking at this team and nobody really considered them a super team at the time. It wasn't a super team until KD got there.
KD got there
That's
because
a
KD was the
fourth
second
All
best player in
Star.
basketball.
Of and
Yeah,
it's still like mind boggling to me because it's like this team was already super good and everyone knows. Oh, KD went there and he was just ring chasing and everyone says that all the time. He had his own choice to go do that, and regardless of
but
if
at the same
he didn't
time,
make it
was
a
he
super
ring
team,
chasing?
but he didn't. He my point is
They
that he
offered him the
never
most
made it.
money.
They offered him the yeah, okay. So his contract was already
Like,
like gonna go to that, gonna go to them because they gave him exactly what he
give him
wanted.
the most money.
No
Like,
other team
bro,
was gonna give him,
no,
even OKC, his own team didn't offer him the best contract that he wanted.
like,
He,
come
he had
on.
the choice to go and pick a team that he wanted to go to. It just happened to be a team that was 73-9. I like, to me, that team was already a super team. Yes, KD
Already.
went there and bolstered the team even more. You can argue maybe he didn't because they won less games, but they won the chip, and they didn't do that the year before because Braun stopped that team, that
The
monster
only
team, that
reason
already
and the
super
only
team.
reason they lost that year, 2016, is because Harrison Barnes could not make a corner three. If Harrison Barnes said, "Give me the ball, let me get this corner specialist going and start knocking down some corner threes," the Warriors
How
would have won
about
that year and went four in a row.
how about when Draymond got ejected for that one game?
That was
Big
bad,
big
but
turnaround.
they
Big
would have
turnaround.
won the series if Harrison Barnes was making his threes. Like that
Yeah,
made it a lot harder.
yeah.
Draymond getting ejected, but they
Draymond
still had
getting
game
ejected was
seven.
huge.
It was huge.
Listen,
Oh, that was the
they
biggest. But
had
Harrison
game
Barnes just needed
seven.
to make some
We all
threes.
know was probably the best game in almost NBA history.
Yeah, it
Like
was amazing.
it
That block, yeah.
the last like 6 minutes, 5 minutes of that game,
Yeah.
untouchable. To our point, there is no room, I think, in the NBA specifically for people to really, you know, judge players for wanting to make a super team. That's regardless of names, regardless of who's already there, regardless of, everyone's stat lines from top to bottom, offense, defense, of, what that team looks like. If you go by stats alone, you can look at teams like the Bucks and the 76ers as super teams just because they have high rated players on those teams. Nobody wants to look at that. Everyone wants to look at who is former MVP, who is an all-star. If you got three or more all-stars on your team, you're a super team. You look at the late 2000s Celtics, the early 2000s Lakers, the early Bulls, 90s Bulls to an extent, the Lakers of the 80s, the Celtics of like the 60s. A lot of those NBA teams had multiple all-stars, but they're not bona fide super teams because they don't draw in the media attention that all these new super teams are drawing in. Could you even argue that like LeBron's Heatles was the first like real super team that was like
No,
assembled to draw in like all that kind of hype and kind of
I
hatred even?
think the Kobe, yeah, hatred wise, yeah, because LeBron is the best player in basketball. So that's why they hated it.
That's what I would have said. Yeah.
That little stretch of time when Kobe was the best player in basketball from like 2000 to 2007 ish,
Yeah, I'll
those
say
7 8
2007,
years
2008. Yeah.
when Kobe was no, like I would even go to 2009. That 9 year stretch where Kobe was undoubtedly the best player in basketball. Like people were giving it to LeBron by 2009, but up to 2008, 2009,
Hmm.
Kobe was the best player in basketball. And the reason why no one ever hated Kobe is because the players around him, even though they were elite and all stars, they weren't Dwayne Wade. They weren't Like him and Shaq is not a super team because it's just the two of them. But then 2004, when they added Malone and Gary Payton, the team was
Hmm.
just bad that year, so they weren't looked at as a super team. Then
But on
Pau
paper,
Gasol
they
and Lamar
were.
Odom,
Right.
that's a super team.
Right.
But you look at them two, you're like, oh, that's not Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Like that's a super team. But if you look, even going back to the Heat, I mean to the Bulls, MJ Pippen are top. Well, MJ is the best shooting guard of all time. Scottie Pippen is the number two small forward of all time. I put him right behind LeBron. So you have
Okay.
them two, and then you have Dennis Rodman, who is the best defender of all time, in my opinion.
Hmm.
You have them three on the same team,
That's a super
and you're
team, is it
that's a
not?
super team.
Yeah.
That's literally just the
No
Warriors.
one would acknowledge that team as a super team. They acknowledge them as one of the greatest teams of all time, but not a super team.
You
Because
know
super
why?
teams were like plain and simple. Most of what LeBron has done in his career was build super teams. Wherever LeBron goes, he brings one or two all stars with him, and he makes super teams. And people give him all this kind of garbage, and they do the same to KD, and they do the same to almost every all star that moves a piece around or brings in a guy from another like smaller market usually. And like the hatred that's just built around super, it doesn't make sense. Like it makes the game better. It makes it so much
Who
better. In 2016, we had one of the greatest finals ever because a Warriors super team got bounced by LeBron. Granted, you could consider that team a super team with Kyrie
No,
and
it wasn't a
Kevin
super
Love.
team.
You can consider like on
No, that was
paper,
yes.
on
On paper,
paper,
super team,
yes,
but
but
Kevin Love
as
was
a yeah, quote unquote,
washed.
it was not. It was not a super team on paper. It could have, but it makes that aspect of the game a lot better to have those super teams in there. You want to
You know what
watch
the
the
issue
big
is?
guys fall. Like it's
Here's
there.
the issue. Today we have Twitter. They didn't have Twitter in the 90s. They didn't have Twitter
Oh
in the early
man.
2000s. That's the difference because people look at LeBron and look at KD and you're like, oh, you guys are the two clearly the two best players in basketball. You
Mhm.
guys should want to take the hard road. And it's like,
Yeah, it's
what sense does
what?
that make? What's it? Let's talk hoops.
What?
Me and him been having some back and forth. I love rating his tweets. So one time he tweeted some foolishness, and I was like, he's like, if Luca retired today, he would be a Hall of Famer. And I'm like,
Oh,
all right, let's
oh
stop.
yes.
And so I said the lowest level of tweet, and he responded. I'm like, I like that. So I followed him. He followed us back.
Right, right,
So
right.
today he tweeted. He said, no thanks. Let's not get better. I don't want to put myself in the best possible position to win a championship. He was like, that's what people wanted KD to say after the Nets asked if they should pursue Harden. And I was like, I responded. I was like, it's crazy how people want these stars to have the hardest road to the chip, which makes
It's
no sense. Who in their right mind wants somebody to go, I'm going to pass up playing with some of the best players in basketball because I want to win by myself? I
it's
could
it's
understand. I could understand
annoying to see
if they
that.
ask you to get LeBron or if they ask you to get Kawhi. They asked you to get James Harden. Like, yes, James Harden just won MVP 2 years ago, 3 years ago. But it's like,
He's a
let's
top
not act
5
like
player in
James
the
Harden
NBA,
is
but come on.
Bron. Let's not act like James Harden is MJ.
He's a
James
top
Harden
5 player in
was
the
James Harden.
NBA. He's really good, and I understand if there's some frustration towards it, but again, why bring that frustration about being a super team?
I'm
Bring the
sorry.
frustration
I'm
that
teaming up
he's
with
going.
people.
I bring that frustration that he's going to be beating up on you. I'm frustrated as a Knicks fan because I know that now the Knicks are going to have a terrible time playing in the East. They already had a terrible time playing against Philly, against Milwaukee, to an extent against the Heat. Now you're going to have this Nets team that is absolutely going to dominate almost everybody in the East for the next couple of years, probably
But you
longer.
you don't know that because look at the Heat now. Have you seen
Maybe.
that Heat
Listen,
defense?
it's
Have you seen that Heat
it's
defense? Did
it's
you
good.
see
It's
what
not there.
Oladipo did to Steph Curry tonight? Steph Curry
Actually,
had
I
to
did not.
laugh.
I did
He
not.
locked him up. I mean, Steph Curry was behind the back, and
That's
Oladipo was just
good
there.
to see.
Was
That's
just
good to
there.
see.
Couldn't
But again,
move.
again, like you can point your anger and frustration that your team is going to have trouble getting through this super team. Yes, that's logical. That makes sense. But don't angle it towards the players, towards especially, the top players. Braun gets it all the time. KD gets it all the time. Kawhi got it, and Kawhi, because he doesn't talk to anybody, that faded out so fast.
Yeah.
Him
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Toronto
He
in
got away with it.
2019, they were giving, oh, Kawhi becomes this top player, and all of a sudden he brings in. Kawhi didn't talk to anybody about it. The media couldn't even grasp onto that because Kawhi did not care. Now you got KD, who is vocal, and Bron, who's just always
And
in
he's
the
in
news.
Brooklyn. Nobody cares about Toronto.
Yeah, but it's bigger market. You're gonna face bigger backlash. I don't feel the same anger that everyone else feels against these guys. They're doing
I'm
what
good.
they
Your
should be doing.
chip.
Exactly. They're doing what they should be doing. Going to win a championship. In the NBA, that's all we care about.
At
Nobody
the
cares
end of
about
this
every
year,
MVP.
if the Nets win the chip, let me not say if. I want the Nets to win the chip, so I'm gonna say when. When the Nets win the chip, who are they gonna give credit to for winning the chip? It's gonna be KD.
It's KD.
Because you already know
I
James
don't
Harden
see.
is a choker in the playoffs.
I
So
was
you
gonna say
already know.
Kyrie a little bit, just because he was already there, but it's gonna be KD. It has to be KD. It has to be.
It's gonna be if KD plays, of
The
course.
second best player in the NBA behind Bron, in my opinion.
It's still KD.
It's gonna be KD.
He hasn't played enough, but he's still KD.
All the media attention, all the fan, pinpointing is going to KD. Kyrie might just take a vacation and pass it on.
So you hear my point. You hear my point where when they win the chip, it doesn't matter what you feel about KD. He won that chip.
Exactly.
People chat about how LeBron couldn't win without Kyrie. Okay, but who won that chip? You thought Kyrie won that chip?
Who got the block? The block that everyone saw and felt and heard and saw. And
yeah, Kyrie may have hit that game winner technically.
Yes.
But who won that chip?
It was Bron.
It was Bron.
Who carried that team when Kyrie was hurt in 2015?
Bron.
Who carried them in 2016, in 17, in 18? Every single year.
Just to show you how much of a win it was for LeBron, the year they lost, who won MVP of that series? Iguodala, because he guarded LeBron and LeBron put up 48 and 8. And Iguodala won the MVP off of guarding someone who dropped 40 on you.
How do you do that? How do you
LeBron dropped 40 on Iguodala and Iguodala won the MVP. That just shows you whoever it's LeBron's team. If they win the chip, it's on LeBron. They won the chip. If the Nets win the chip this year, I don't care how Harden could be MVP of the whole league. When it comes to the finals, if the Nets win the chip, KD, it's because of KD.
Yes. Point blank period.
I'm tired of it, man. I'm tired of it.
Point of all this. Stop hating on Bron and KD for what they've done to the league. If anything, they've made it 100,000 times better. 100,000 times better.
Get the crap teams out of the way. Timberwolves. All the Timberwolves fans mad. Y'all had a super team and you guys blew it. You had Cat, Andrew Wiggins, Jimmy Butler. That's a super team, and y'all blew it. I don't want to hear nothing anymore.
Because they couldn't keep the biggest ego on that team alive. When you
had Jeff
people like Jimmy Butler, you feed that guy. You
had Jeff Teague. You know how nice Jeff Teague is? He may not be an elite player, but Jeff Teague was the best player on that 60-win Atlanta Hawks team. He was the best player on that team.
Oh, that was what,
the highest average score. That was 2012 to 15-ish, around there. He was the best player on that team that was the number one seed almost every year. So you have him, Jimmy, Andrew Wiggins, who, even though he's lazy, is still a top talent. He might not put it together on the court. Top talent. And Cat, who's one of the top 5 centers in the league. That's a super team. I don't want to hear nothing. And y'all blew it. So you don't get to talk about other people having super teams. Y'all had one and y'all blew it. I'm tired, bro. I'm tired of it.
I'm not even gonna bring in the Knicks in 2012 because Knicks 2012 had Melo, Mare, and
but that's not a super team because Mare was washed at the time.
It wasn't a super team, but it was a team that was top in the East and it was New York media, and they were gassing them. They got bounced by the Pacers.
But that Pacers team was a super team.
but it was all Paul George. It was
Paul George,
all
Danny
Paul
Granger,
George.
what's his name? What's his name? Lance Stevenson. You had
Lance
Roy Hibbert, who
Stevenson,
was getting like
Roy
6 blocks a
Hibbert.
game. That was a super team, bro. I don't even fault y'all for that because everybody just
Under
said, "All
no
right, stop Melo."
underappreciated team definitely. Couldn't get through Braun. That's one thing, but that was
They
it.
showed up.
Shane, the NBA is usually a good like market for teams that are considered like super. You know, you get 3 All-Stars together or more, you're automatically a super team. We've kind of discussed some of the underlying super teams. In other sports, though, it's not really known to have a super team. In football, you can have a really good team with a lot of names, might not be a super team per se, like to NBA standards, but it can still be a really good team that other teams and fans dread to face. You look at Tampa's team from last year, they weren't really a super team, but they were a
They should have
really
been. They
good
should be
team.
considered a super team.
Joe, and this year, because they've retained all 22 starters, you should consider them a super team because they have the
Exactly.
greatest quarterback of all time at quarterback. They have 2 top 10 receivers, a top 10 tight end who came out of retirement,
Yeah.
their top 10 running back, and now they get the same defense that was like top 5 in the
Amazing.
league.
Yeah.
Come on. That has to be a super
What's
team to
what's
some standard.
what's your criteria of a super team?
Depending on the sport, I think
No,
in
for
general.
football. For football. Sorry,
Oh,
just for
for
football.
football. Oh, just for
Yeah, I don't care
football.
about other sports right now. Just for football.
Great quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
good receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna bunch skill positions. That's
Mm-hmm.
receiver, tight end, running back. They just have to be good. Not great, good. You need a great quarterback, good skill positions, elite defense. Defense in the NFL is a must. Is a must. You could have an offense that scores 80 points a game,
Yeah,
but you
like
will
the Seahawks, and
lose
then end up
92
losing every
to
game.
80 every
Yeah.
time. You need
This
an
is this is
elite
why
defense.
this is why we do this show, because
Exactly.
I have the exact same criteria, but I think you need to have at least two of the three skill positions. So tight end, running back, wide receiver. At least two of them have to be great to elite. So you look at the Chiefs.
Yeah.
The Chiefs had a very good defense the last
Mm-hmm.
couple of years. It wasn't elite, but it was very good. And
Mm-hmm.
then you have the best skill quarterback in the NFL. You had the fastest wide receiver, makes you elite. The best tight end in the league, or maybe number two to dude on the 49ers. And then
Kittle.
you have
Yeah.
Kittle's elite, but you have
Yeah.
Kelsey, who's also elite. And then you
Kelsey's the
have
best tight end in the league. Yeah.
running backs who, even though this year they weren't that good, they were good in past years. So you have that plus Honey Badger on your defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a super team. You look at them and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no facet of the game that you can beat them in. You just have to slow them down enough to
Yeah.
win the
Keep
game.
them off the field. That's the only
Yeah,
way. And that's
that's the
hard
only
to do.
way. And then you look
Stay
at
on the
the
field, they score.
the Saints, elite
Yeah.
defense. You have, even though he was washed, you had the best passer of all time.
Drew Brees, yes.
Yes, he might not be the greatest quarterback, but he was the best passer by
Yes.
yards, and he's about to get passed now. But
Yeah.
you have that, and then you have Michael Thomas,
Michael Thomas,
Alvin Kamara,
Alvin Kamara.
and then
That's two
and
right there. That fits your
Njoku
criteria.
for, but yeah, it fits the criteria. But you still had Njoku, I think that's his name. So tight end.
No, at tight end, it was he just got signed by somebody else, but it wasn't him.
Yeah, you know
Wow,
who
I'm
I'm
forgetting
talking
his name.
about.
I know
He
exactly who you're
was
talking
there.
about.
They
Saints
had
tight
Jimmy
end.
Graham back in it for a little bit.
Yes.
So you see that you have Michael
Yep.
Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Jimmy Graham, or Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, somebody else.
It was Jared Cook,
Elite.
and he was decent.
Jared
Jared
Cook.
Cook, he was
He wasn't
decent.
amazing,
Yes.
but he was good enough. You throw him the ball, he's going to catch it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so you look at that and you're like, that's a super team. Tampa,
Yes.
like you said before, super team.
Yes.
Patriots never had a super team. Even though you know they're going to be in the finals in the Super Bowl every year, they never had a super team because you know why?
By those
Because
standards, no, they didn't. You're right.
never had a super team, in my opinion. Even
No.
standards are not.
My opinion, or no. By our standards, regardless of whether you have, see, my standards, I only say good receivers. The Patriots only ever had good receivers. Two exceptions: Randy Moss and Wes Welker in 07 and 08,
Yeah.
and Brandon Cooks and Julian Edelman in 2018. Only two exceptions. Two exceptions
Yeah.
in those 2 years. They had top 10 NFL receivers. Other than that, most of those years did not have good receivers.
Nope.
You had Aaron Hernandez and Gronk at one point. Gronk obviously was the better of the two, and we all know what happened to Aaron Hernandez. Patriots never had a
Let me not
consistent
laugh.
running
I'm
back.
sorry. I didn't mean to laugh. I didn't mean to laugh. I'm so sorry. God forgive me.
But he will, don't worry. Bro, regardless, that's the one team that just never fit the criteria. The only
They didn't need to because they had the
reason-
greatest coach of all time.
Thank you. Because and to be a super team, you never really look at the coach, right?
Never.
You never really look at the coach, especially because in
Look
the
at the
NBA,
teams
you
we're
look at
talking
Bron.
about, though.
Bron is pretty much the coach of every team he's ever been on.
Yeah.
KD can pretty much coach
I don't
every
think
team
Bron
he's
has
ever been
ever had a great coach.
on. No.
Spoelstra is a great coach. I'm so sorry.
Whoa.
Spoelstra is a great coach.
Hold on. We got to give that to Spoelstra, especially after 2012, 2013, and then coming back to the finals after this season.
Mike Brown, not a great coach.
No.
He can coach some basketball, but he's not somebody you look at like on the level of Spoelstra, and then to a higher degree, even like D'Antoni. Like you're not looking at him like that. But Mike Brown was good. Who's the Italian guy? David Blatt. Like what?
Russian.
Ty Lue can get there because he just started coaching, but he can get there. But who's the Lakers coach right now? Frank Vogel. He's getting up there. He's a good coach, but he's not a great coach.
Regardless, none of these coaches ever coached LeBron James.
Nope. You can't coach LeBron.
None of them.
You just tell him what to do.
LeBron. Now,
tell him like, let me know what you're gonna do.
In football, you have to be coached because they're looking at everything on the field. Quarterback sees everything on the field. Quarterback sees everything. They might not see everything from high to low. They're looking at, what play am I running? Where's the defense picked up? Should I go left? Should I go right? More like detailed, specific stuff. Coaches, because they have coaches on the field and have coaches in the booths, you have to have an eye on every aspect of the football field. So you can't just coach yourself in football. Tom Brady needed Bill Belichick. He needs Bruce Arians to an extent, and Todd Bowles. You get that to Todd Bowles. But even still, like you have to really, or David Garrard, not Todd, but he was the offensive coordinator. You have to really look at, some between those two sports, when you're a super team, who gets considered in that bunch? Now, the hardest of those three to form a super team, major three sports, is baseball.
Oh yeah,
because
100%.
There are too many factors. Too many games, even too. To really see, like you can have all the names in the world in baseball. You could have top 10 pitching talent, hitting talent. But realistically, it never always comes at the same time for teams.
At the same time, yeah. It's like, actually crazy.
Throughout history, like Yankees have always had a bomb squad. Pitching, it was dominant a couple decades here and there, like early 2000s when we had Clemens. I'd say like
Clemens,
20...
Pettit, Messina. That was a bomb squad.
2017-18 Yankees had some decent pitching names coming up, but they were okay.
Sevy I wouldn't even go that far. Up. It was really just Sevy. CC was washed at that point. That's it. 2017-18. It was really just Sevy. Yeah,
there were a couple of names. I don't even
2009. Our pitching was elite when it was CC as the one, Burnett at the 2, Pettit at the 3. Who else was on that team?
I always think Jabba, but he's a reliever at that point.
Jabba was a reliever at that point. Yeah. Who else started? Phil Hughes. Phil Hughes was elite back then.
Yeah, man.
So our team and our bullpen was elite too with Mo, David Robertson. You had Jabba. You had a bunch of studs. So like that was the one team in recent years that was a true super team. The Dodgers are coming close now, Yankees. But it's still not as nice as the 09 Yankees.
Yeah. And I think like in most of I think baseball history specifically, it mostly goes through the Yankees as like super teams mostly because of the names. Like there were teams that beat the Yankees
Of
in
course.
the mid like 20th century. Like, Dodgers always came close to them. The late 90s Braves maybe are another team that kind of come to mind.
But
Smoltz,
I wouldn't even go that far because they
Maddox,
never won. I think they won
but
one
then
World Series in
they
'95.
won, yeah, one World Series in
And that was it.
95, and
Can't be a super team if you don't win.
they got beat by the
That's another
Yankees
reason why I don't think
almost
the
three
Nets are a
times.
super team yet. Like you have the names, well, until you win, you're not a super team. The Braves won the division
It's
every year for
true.
like 20 years
It's
straight
true.
and won one World Series. What's the point?
Hmm. You're not wrong. It's still baseball
Yankees,
is one of the hardest sports to actually form a super team in. It's nearly impossible. And it's the one sport that has no cap. And
but
and
that's why it's impossible.
you could literally give as many players as big of a contract as you want, but they will not perform to that value
That's
every
why it's
time.
impossible because
Yeah.
you have the Yankees and the Dodgers who have money and the Red Sox
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
going to spend money,
Yeah.
but there's so much pressure to play in those markets that some of those players that you give that big money to are going to crumble, i.e. Randy Johnson, i.e. uh who else?
AJ Burnett for the Yankees.
AJ Burnett was good 09 and in 2010, but after that he fell off a cliff.
He fell off.
Uh uh even like to a lesser extent, you see players like uh, who was it recently that came over and
Jacoby
you're like, oh, this
Ellsbury.
guy's good. Jacoby Ellsbury. Like Jacoby, I don't understand how he got that contract.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But even Jacoby Ellsbury, you can't really say because he played in Boston, and Boston is still a top tier market. So it's like I don't even understand why he ended up so bad for the Yankees. I think he just
He was just hurt
swindled
like
us.
every single day.
He swindled us. He had the 1 year where he had 30 home runs, and people said, "Oh my god, this guy is
I
amazing." And it's like, no,
I remember him being hurt every single day with a new
oh
injury.
yeah,
That's all I
every
remember his
day.
career as. On the Yankees. On the Red Sox, he was
Yeah,
a Yankee killer.
he
And then
was
he came to the
amazing on the Red
Yankees.
Sox.
On the Yankees, he was still a Yankee killer by not
Oh
playing,
yeah,
by stealing their money and not playing. Shane, in
he
other
really
sports,
swindled
are
us,
there?
man.
Yeah, he robbed us.
Oh
I mean,
god,
robbed us. Blind. No, not even blind.
blind.
We were watching him take money out of bank, out of our pocket.
You can't stop him. Go
You can't
ahead.
stop him.
We signed it. Oh man.
Shane, in other sports, I mean, we look at other sports like hockey, soccer, team sports specifically. Are there any real like super teams, potential for super teams? Olympic teams? Are there any super teams?
In the NBA, of course, we see super teams.
Yeah,
Uh, but once again, like I said, unless you win the chip, you're not a super team. Warriors, super team
yeah,
because they won 3 out of 4,
yeah.
3 out of 5 technically. They would have won 4 out of 5 if KD and Clay didn't get hurt against the Raptors. Uh,
That's very true.
that's really it. And once again, another criteria you like I said earlier, you need Twitter. You're not a super team. Nobody was thinking of the Celtics back in the day as a super team
There was no hate. There was
because
no
one, there
hype.
was only 8 teams, so of course you have 2 good players. You're the best team in basketball by far.
Yeah,
So yeah, NFL, like we talked about, super team. We went over the criteria for the super team is for NBA. It's just names
yeah. Most of the
and winning a
time, it's
chip.
just names. Yeah,
Yeah, NFL, like we said earlier, you need skill positions, great quarterback, good to elite defense.
yeah,
MLB, you need super high payroll. You need good years out of role players, and that's the difference. For NBA, you don't need your role players to do anything. They just got to
mm,
show up. They don't have to be amazing. They just got to be there,
yeah,
and you're a super team. In the NFL, role players have to do a little bit. In the MLB, your role players have to do a ton. You're for
yeah.
Cause remember,
It's
you could have the
individual and
greatest
team.
rotation in baseball,
Yeah,
and the Dodgers, not the Dodgers, the Mets are ranked like number 5 in baseball for their rotation. And who can you
wow.
name out of the top 2?
DeGrom,
It's DeGrom,
Syndergaard.
that's number 1. Syndergaard technically is number 2, but he's still coming back from Tommy John, so I
Oh,
don't
true.
count him. You have Carrasco number 2. Other than that, you have Stroman, and then you have to think. Who's their 4 and 5? Seth Lugo, I guess, if he's not the
I think
closer.
so. Matz is on the
Uh,
Nationals now, so he's not there.
yeah, no, he's on the Blue Jays.
He's on the Steven Matz?
Yeah, is he not on the Blue
Mm,
Jays? I could have sworn he was on the Blue Jays. He got traded to the Blue Jays like last week. I mean, right before the
Yeah, he is on the Blue
during
Jays.
yeah. So
Sheesh.
it's like you're if you could have the best rotation in baseball. Let's use the Nationals. They have the best rotation. No, okay, the Dodgers. They have the best rotation in baseball. You have Kershaw number 1, Bauer number 2, Bueller number 3. You're 4 and 5, so 60% of the games you expect to win. 40% of the games is a toss up. Dustin May, Julio Urias, whatever his name is. You have
Yeah, Urias.
uh what's his name? The Yankee son. Um David Price. It's like,
David Price.
yeah, you technically like 40% of the games is a toss up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't
And
have a super team in baseball. It's
in
nearly
baseball, you
impossible.
could take that and still be a great team,
Yeah, and you're
but
not
you
a
won't
super
be a
team.
super team. No.
Like the Nets are expected to win every game. The Lakers are expected to win every game. Clippers are expected to win every game. Like there's
Tampa is
not
expected to win every
expected to win
game,
every game.
especially
So
coming
you
off
look
that
at
Super
the
Bowl.
Yankees. You look at the Yankees. People are like, oh, the Yankees should never lose. Are you sure?
Yeah. Well,
You think Jordan Montgomery is the best pitcher in baseball? No. You
can't
think
wait to
Domingo
see that in
Germán is
August.
the best pitcher in baseball? No. They're gonna
No.
lose. They might not lose every game. That's why you hope you get the right matchups. But it's
Right.
like, think about it. It's nearly impossible because some games you're gonna just lose because you matched up against somebody better than you.
That's literally the sport of baseball, and that's what we were almost essentially talking about before with the runner on second. It's just the the way baseball is played. It's more by chance than any other
Yeah,
game.
too many outcomes.
Anything could happen. Anything could happen.
The wind could blow
Basketball, it
too
all
hard
depends
for one
on
second, and that's it.
who's making the shot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
football, it depends on how the ball is being transferred from center to quarterback to skill player for
And that's
yardage.
easy because majority of the time it's literally I'm just putting the football in your hand. Like,
Yeah,
of course, there's some plays where you're in shotgun and it's raining. You have those weird circumstances, but that's
yeah,
rare.
yeah.
Even that, you're supposed to throw the ball. You're supposed to snap the ball hard enough that it can
Mhm.
get through the rain and the wind
And most of the NFL players do that because they play in rain and wind and inclement weather
all the
all the
time.
time. In baseball, it is hard. It is damn near impossible. So for them to be
Literally,
able to
the
do it,
worst pitcher can throw a slider at 90 miles an hour, which is unreal because most people's fastball 20 years ago didn't touch 90. Now you
yeah,
have the bum relievers coming up. What's his name? Emmanuel Clase on the Indians. Those 102-mile-an-hour cutter.
that's ridiculous.
His slider is 95 miles an hour. His slider is 95 miles an hour.
Shane, the image of that cutter hitting a bat, like making contact with the bat, just shatters
That
a bat in
would
my mind.
shatter.
That
Mariano was
shatters a bat
shattering
in
bats
my
with a
mind.
93-mile-an-hour cutter. This guy's going up there 102, and it's violent. It's not like he's just, 102. That's all you hear. The bat is up in the air. The
It's in
ball is
17 different places in the
like
air.
that's
Sick.
why there's no super teams because the worst reliever
Yeah.
can go out there and dominate you. Merriweather. Nobody knew who that guy was before today. Merriweather went out there and had the Yankees looking dumb. 99-mile-an-hour fastball, 80-mile-an-hour, 20-mile-an-hour difference between your fastball and your changeup. How do
Ooh.
you hit that? That's why
Oh,
there's no super teams in the MLB. Yeah, you have the names.
it is
Dodgers has the names.
damn near impossible.
I'm sorry, man.
Shane, let's close out this super team talk with name me your 3 favorite super teams of all time, all sports.
98 Yankees. It was before I really got
Okay.
into baseball, but
Yeah.
that team, even though that technically that's not a super team, honestly, they were a
Hard
super
to
team. You
embed.
know
We
why?
we just talked about it in
Because
baseball, but
they had
how so?
all stars on their bench, like people that were all star the year before, like Tim Raines, perennial all star, Hall of Famer, was sitting on the bench in 1998. Playing time, what's that? I'm a pinch runner. Hall of Famer was a pinch runner on that team. You had who was a left fielder back then? It was kind of like Shane Spencer ish. That's when he went crazy his rookie year, 1998. You had Bernie in center. You had Paul O'Neill in right. You had who was the first baseman on that? Tino. You had
Martinez,
you had
Chuck,
not Soriano.
no,
Who was that second on that team?
he came up in '98.
Second
Oh
base
man,
was who was the second baseman on that team?
damn,
You had
bro,
Jeter
hold
at
on.
short. You had
Jeter was at short. We're
Knobloch
definitely gonna know.
at third. You had catcher was Girardi. Like you look at that team, it's not a super team, but they had all the names. You had the pitching staff that you had David Cone, David Wells. You had all these studs on that team. So it makes sense. The
That's
bullpen was elite.
Scott Brocious.
Scott Brocious was the second baseman.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what it was. So you had names, but they weren't elite names. But you look at that team, you had Tim Raines off the bench. Tim Raines is a Hall of Famer. Let's you could stop right there. You had a Hall of Famer. Granted, it took him 10 years to make the Hall of Fame. He wasn't first ballot, but he's still a Hall of Famer. On your bench that would come in to pinch run. And it's not like he was washed. Like you put Tim Raines on another team, he could still put up 80 stolen bases. Like that's how good he was. You know how much you have to get on base to get 80 stolen bases? Like he's that type of elite talent. And that guy was on the bench. Yes, Tori. Yes, Mr. Tori. I will go in and steal you second and third. Yes, Mr. Tori. I'm 40
I don't care
years
what
old.
my career is right now.
Like, come on, bro.
I don't care where my career is gonna be in the next 20 years. That's fine.
I'll be good.
Care. I'll be good.
Come on, bro. That's my favorite baseball That's your favorite super team. Okay. Baseball super team. You could talk about the 27 Yankees, but once again, every other team in that era was trash. It was really Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, White Sox ish. Everybody else was horrible.
Yeah.
Everybody else was basically. Yeah. So you could say you're a baseball super team.
My favorite baseball super team of all time is the 09 Yankees. It was the first real Yankees team that I was pinpointed.
That was an actual super team.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yes. I agree.
Yes, full extent. The best infield I ever seen in my life so far.
The greatest infield of all time. The best
lineup from 1 to 9 I had ever seen in my life. And some of my favorite pitchers. Some of my favorite pitchers were ever on that team. And I just for our own sake, I have to know what that starting pitching rotation
That line. Let's talk about the lineup. While you're looking that up, I'm gonna name off the lineup. You had Jeter leading off, Johnny Damon batting second. You had was it Cano or Teixeira batting third? You had A-Rod batting fourth, Cano five. No, Cano was batting fifth. Matsui. No, you had Swisher batting sixth. You had Matsui batting seventh.
He was seventh.
You had
Posada batting eighth
and Melky or Gardner batting ninth. There is literally no weak spot in that lineup. You had four switch hitters. And then the people that weren't switch hitters are some of the all-time great best hitters of all time. You had Johnny Damon, who contact hitter, one of the great contact hitters. He's not a Hall of Famer by any stretch, but one of the great contact hitters. You have Jeter, who should have got 100% Hall of Fame ballots. I don't care if he's not that great of a defender. You needed a clutch hit, Jeter was going to give it to you every single time. And then you had A-Rod, who, yes, he was on roids, but does anybody argue that A-Rod is not one of the greatest hitters of all time?
That's my jersey A-Rod is my
guy. A-Rod is my guy. We don't win that World Series with A-Rod. And then you have Cano. Cano is one of the greatest lefty swings of all time. It's him, Griffey, Carlos Gonzalez are the three top lefty swings of all time, in my opinion. I'm talking about
Bryce is up there.
Bryce is violent. I'm talking about sweet,
swing stride. Just
like them three, you can't touch them three when it comes to lefty swings. So you look at them and you're like, oh my God.
that starting pitching was Sabathia, Burnett, Pettit. Jabba was a starter in
Oh, he
09.
wasn't starting on 09?
Yeah,
Oh
and it was
man.
either Phil Hughes or Phil Koch
Where,
switching off on the 5.
where was Chiming Wong? Was he gone by then?
No, he was there too. He was there too. He had a couple. He had 9 starts that year.
I think that was the year where he like tore both hamstrings running home or something like that, and he just fell off a
Oh
cliff.
wait, yeah, wait.
Chin-Ming
Oh
Wong.
god.
That was something like that's why that was when the whole stop having pitchers hit. That's when that started with him, where he was running around third, and it was like, why are you sprinting?
Yeah,
Like the
it
ball's in the
made
gap, you're
sense,
gonna score. And
and it made
then
sense.
he had like tore both his hamstrings. It was never the same after that.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, man. Yeah, that Loki, because I watched that live. Like I didn't watch 90, like I was alive in 98, but I wasn't a baseball fan until like 03, 04. So I didn't really watch 98. But hearing the nostalgia, people talk about 98 like that is the greatest single team. They went what? They won
100
116 games that year,
yeah,
like including the playoffs. I think they won 116 games or something like that. No, more than
they went
that.
100, 114 in the regular
Yeah.
season,
And then they won the
and then in the
16 games in the
playoffs,
playoffs.
they won 16
130
games in the
games in one
playoffs.
year. Imagine that.
Yeah,
130 games you won in one year. '09
monstrous.
Yankees didn't do that. I think they went like 104 and 58 or something like that, which is still elite. But when you went 114, super team, bro. I don't know. '09 gives me more nostalgia, but that 98 Yankee team, people talk about that team like people say that team was better than the 27 Yankees. Like not names wise, of course, but they said if you put them two teams up against each other, 98 would wash 27. And I don't know because that
That's
murderers row in
something, bro.
27
Nah, that
was
sounds
something else.
dangerous. That's
Yeah.
dangerous. But listen, Yankees had a lot of like notable super teams like throughout history, and it's literally history. It's like 100+ years.
Yeah.
But bro, yeah, man.
NBA.
Uh, NBA, my favorite one. Wow, and it really like legitimately is the 18 Warriors because like with that 4 KD, the Splash Bros, Draymond, and who was at 5 at that point? Was that Vergel? Came in halfway through the season. Who was there before
18
that?
18 was I think JaVale McGee.
Oh, JaVale McGee was on that
Yeah.
team. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. I think that was my favorite team to watch only because like they were expected to win every single game, and I
Every
wanted to
single
see it
game.
happen.
Without
I
question.
literally wanted to see it happen, and I knew how much like anger there was towards it, and I was just like, but what if they do it? We'd be witnessing
Honestly, they could
history.
have.
We'd be literally witnessing history. Like, and obviously, it's almost an impossible feat in the NBA. You have to lose
In
a
any
couple
sport.
games.
Yeah.
Any games. Well, football's a little different.
Well, it's easier,
It's
but
happened a
even
couple
then,
times.
it's rare that it's like happened
It's rare.
twice
Yeah, yeah, it
in
is.
like 100 years.
Even still, like that team by itself, even if they played 0 games that year, would have been historic just because of the way they were set up. 2 of the greatest shooters of all time, one of the greatest NBA players to ever touch the basketball court, one of the best defenders, and honestly, even big men. Not maybe as now Draymond Green is, but at one point was one of the better big men in the NBA. That assembly of just like 4 great players, all stars on one team, on a team that was already really good, that just had to get better, I would have liked to see them go all the way. 4 in a row. They almost did it. They almost had one.
Once
Tough
again,
the
they
way that it
won
went
chips,
out.
so they're a super team. They
Tough the way
won
that they went out.
chips. Yeah.
Yeah.
My favorite NBA super team, and this is all nostalgia.
Yeah.
It's not even like it wasn't a super team because they never won the chip,
Yeah.
but the '01 and the '02 Nets with Billy
Oh,
Kidd, Richard
yeah.
Jefferson, you had Kenyon Martin,
Oh
Harry
man.
Kittles. Like that team was elite. But
You don't
who
even
did they
know.
go up against
I
in the
had
finals?
it was the
Spurs, the super team Spurs, and the
oh, but
super team
the Lakers.
Lakers.
Yeah.
So it's like you weren't gonna beat them. So you get
I
over
had
it.
a neighbor who lived across the street from me that worked for I think their front office and used to give me and my dad Nets tickets. This was before I was like super into basketball even too. I had no knowledge of basketball at all, but I would take those tickets and go to those games
Yep.
because that was one of the best teams. I distinctly remember like the image just is in my head of me sitting like 200 level at what was that stadium in the Meadowlands called? Man, I even forget. I
Izod
just remember
or Continental
Izod.
Airlines.
It was Continental before
Continental
Izod.
Airlines, yeah.
Yeah, man. And just hearing that's another VC3
VC3.
or Jason Kidd coming down the court, Richard Jefferson coming down the court, they'd
Telling
be
you.
like dogging people. And they were even like some decent games. There were a couple like garbage like Clippers games, like Wizards games at the time. I didn't get to see too many like superstar players, but just going to watch the Nets at that
Telling you,
time,
bro.
like it meant like a lot to me to like just be able to be in that presence, bro. It was like
That's
it was good. It was
clear
good.
nostalgia because you knew
Hell
the
yeah.
Nets weren't going to win the chip against the Lakers. You knew it. But
Because I
it's
was like
like just the fact
6 or
that they
7, I
got
didn't,
there.
but yeah. Yeah, I understand you. I understand you.
Yeah, man. And I was watching basketball back then.
Yeah.
Like those were my teams. That's when I became a Nets fan because you know everybody in this area, oh Knicks, Knicks, Knicks. I'm like, no, the Nets caught my attention.
I don't know what really switched me over. I think I wanted to stay a little more loyal to New York. But I do have a special place in my heart for like the New Jersey Nets. Like
Yeah, like
that
neither
was,
team up until 2010 ish, neither team was
yeah.
good in our lifetime. So like
Yeah, really.
like
Really.
the Nets were good in 01 and 02 and they had the big three up until like 06. But
Hmm.
did you really think the Nets were going to win the chip in any of those years? Did you really think like in 20 like up until the 2010s,
Hmm.
I didn't think either of our teams had a shot. Like the 2012 Knicks, I thought they had a shot. Like, of course, you would have to get through LeBron, you have to get through the Pacers, stuff like that.
I
You have
think
to get
yeah,
through the
getting through
Heaters.
LeBron was the
Yeah,
harder part. The Pacers I didn't expect actually at all. But I like knowing to have to get through LeBron, it was that like
yeah,
block that I thought. Yeah,
that was it.
yeah.
But you still thought like Melo could do this because when Melo was
Yeah.
going up against Bron, all the matchups they was dropping 50 on each other. Like you
Yeah,
know how
bro.
disrespectful that is to drop 50 on somebody and then get 50 thrown right back on you. So
Yeah.
it's like,
The only difference was that LeBron was winning those games.
yeah,
He was winning those
that's
matchups. I would have
the
liked to see
difference. Yeah,
Melo win a couple of them at least. But yeah,
yeah.
bro.
So yeah, okay. And NFL, I would say my favorite super team NFL. Uh, I guess you can't really call them a super team, but you can off of the criteria that we had. Uh, I really love watching the Chiefs, and even
Yeah.
it's to the point that even in the Super Bowl this
They
year when
won a
they were
chip.
getting
Yeah.
manhandled,
Yeah. Yeah.
I was still saying they probably still come back, even if they don't win, they'll probably still make the game close. And with two
Absolutely.
minutes left in the game, they're down 20 something. I'm like, they still might come back. Like, you
It's
know,
the
there's no
Chiefs.
shot they would win the game,
It's
but
the
it's like they
Chiefs.
can score twice in a minute. Like, that's how
Yeah.
good they are. They can literally score, get a pick, and score again in a minute. So I was like, they could do it, but it didn't happen. But most people's heads, they're like, yo, the Chiefs can still come back. They can still come back. And that's a super team. If
Shane,
you
I
can say
think
that about a team,
yeah.
it's a super team.
Yeah.
Telling you, bro.
I think I was gonna say I think you're watching a dynasty with that team.
Yeah.
I think you're looking at one Patrick Mahomes, probably the next greatest quarterback in our generation, like to watch in this
No, he
generation.
is. And people already know you don't get 400 and 500 million dollars if you're not a great quarterback already. The only reason they didn't win the Super Bowl this year is because of what's his name, the left tackle, and because Patrick Mahomes was
Yeah,
playing on
Eric
one foot.
Fisher was gone. Yeah.
People remember we had that
Otherwise,
episode and we were like,
yeah,
"Oh, Patrick Mahomes lying. He wasn't hurt. He was hurt, and
he
it
was hurt.
showed. It showed in the Super Bowl.
uh,
But before
that
that,
was
it
like
was
the
like,
second
yo,
episode. Yeah. And then the Super Bowl episode,
like, ooh, yeah, he might actually be hurt.
he actually hurt his toe. He had turf toe, and he had a concussion on top of that too. Like,
Exactly.
bro,
Yeah, that's my favorite one.
doesn't necessarily fit the criteria for winning a chip, but my favorite super team because it actually was a super team, the '07 Patriots.
I just
They
wish they kept
literally,
the team going for a little longer.
yeah. I remember Randy Moss was basically done like like a couple of years, 2-3 years after that. Brady got hurt the following season.
Mhm.
The
That was when we
defense
found out
was
about
aging out.
Matt Castle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone's like, "Oh, Matt Castle's gonna be nice."
He played behind Brady. Oh, he's the new quarterback of the Chiefs. Now he's on another team.
He
Now
went.
he's on another team. Now he's on another team. He went to like 4 other different teams.
Now he's not in the league anymore. It's like, oh man.
Poor Matt Cass. Bro, it was just the one aspect of that team that will live in my memory forever was Tom Brady and Randy Moss. Just
50 touchdowns. How
two
you throw for 50
the
touchdowns in 1
two
year?
greatest players at their respective positions.
At
For
the time,
me,
yeah.
I'm saying for me of all time.
Oh, you're
And I
wild.
know no, and I know Jerry Rice has been there.
Jerry Rice
I know
washed Randy Moss.
What about the
Washed.
Stickum? What about the Stickum?
Washed.
He was playing with Stickum on his hands.
So was Randy Moss. They had the gloves.
No.
Them gloves are more sticky than the actual Stickum. Come on now.
No, Randy Moss
Let's not do this.
is one of my favorite
I
receivers
agree
ever,
with the
and
Tom
I'm gonna
Brady
call
spot,
him
but
the greatest
oh man, you're
receiver
wild.
of all time.
I'll probably pick Julio Jones over Randy Moss.
Oh no!
You're wild.
Come on, bro. There were literal corners who couldn't guard him on what would essentially be a very simple deep post. If you have a corner that knows you're running a deep post, it's because he takes longer strides. It's because he just has better hands. And he could read a defense better.
It's because he had so much bounce. There was a reason why we said, "Oh, you got mossed," because Randy Moss would just jump over people.
That was Vikings Moss, yes, but Patriots Moss was literally running and catching. He had to jump because like he didn't have Tom Brady at quarterback. Most of the passes weren't coming pinpoint accurate to him. But 07 Tom Brady to an older Randy Moss was just catching balls in stride, bro. Yeah. He was going crazy. And then they didn't finish the deal.
I don't know, bro. Well, yeah, because you're welcome. But I don't know. Like Randy Moss is all-time great. Hands down one of the top 5 wide receivers maybe of all time. But Jerry Rice is the greatest of all time. And it's not even close. Jerry Rice,
he torches everybody.
Could probably get 50 yards in an NFL game.
Did I tell you? I don't know if I've ever told you. I met Jerry Rice once. Like
where?
Never spoke to him. Just made prolonged eye contact with him, and I couldn't figure out who he was.
Who was? I hate that.
I looked at him and I was like,
that. "Oh man, I hate
know you from somewhere." And you know what he did? He didn't walk up to me. He didn't make conversation. He didn't shake my hand. He said,
"Yep."
Just shook his head. I was like,
shook his head.
I know this guy. I was in Tampa. I was in some conference that I was at with like the school I was at the time. Bro looked at me for about 3 minutes straight and was just nodding his head. Like he was like, "You know who I am."
He was probably
figure
like,
it out.
Say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you figure it out, you're going to be pissed. But right now, I'm good. I have no attention on me.
There was supposedly like a 49ers reunion happening or something at Tampa. And like, I'm pretty sure like Ronnie Lott was in like the parking lot or something. The running back was like in the main area where I was. It was at a hotel there too. But bro, I like we made prolonged eye contact and I was like, who is this guy? How do I know this man?
Off topic, but were you a part? I know you went to BF, so I don't know if you were there, but do you remember when they gave Dare or a Great Program the tickets to the Nets game? It was Nets Cavs. I don't know if you were at that game. I don't know if it was TJ only or if it was TJ and BF, but they gave tickets and we went on the court for the national anthem. And
I was there for that. I was not there.
Man.
What was that like?
They had us lined up in the little tunnel where the NBA players run out. So LeBron ran out, and I'm like, "Yo, LeBron, let me get your sneakers." And LeBron just looked back, and he just kept running. And I'm like, "Oh, he noticed me." I was hyped. And then they had us. They had all the NBA players. The national anthem. They lined them up in a straight line. They had all the kids stand up in front of them. So I'm walking on and I trip because the floor is a little bit raised. It's like 3 inches higher than there. I trip. I'm like, oh, but I didn't fall. I'm like, oh crap. So we get there, we do the national anthem. LeBron does after the whole thing. And I'm like, LeBron, let me get your sneakers. And he just ignored me. I was so sad.
He
That
was
was
like,
a good
who
day. The
is this
Nets got
kid that
washed.
wants my damn shoes? I'm not giving my shoes. I haven't played the game yet.
What year was that? I think that was
You said
08.
TJ? Yeah, that had to be like,
That was
yeah,
08 because that was 5th or
07,
6th
08.
grade. So that was like
Yeah.
07, 08.
Then you
And I
said
remember
Cavs LeBron.
Donnie from Making the Band, he sang the
Yeah.
national anthem and he cracked like 8 times. And everybody's like, oh, he's washed. He's washed. I was like, oh man, yo, that was a good day. That was a good day.
Oh.
And then the Nets were getting blown out. So me and my sister, we were like, they give you the nosebleed seats. So me and my sister were like, yo, everybody left. Everybody left. Let's go down. So me and my sister went down to like almost courtside, and we was just sitting there. And the security guard was like, yeah, go for it. We don't care. I was like, oh, this is lit.
I vividly remember doing that at the Nets games because literally, like, there was once a snowstorm in the middle of the game, and everyone dipped.
Everyone dipped.
Beat the snow. And me and my dad were like,
let's go down.
You can drive in the snow? All right, yeah, but we'll stay here. And we literally just walked down to almost courtside. The guys were like, cool with it. They knew.
They knew people don't care because there was mad seats open.
The team was leaving in the next 5 years. It didn't matter.
Good times, man. That was a funny day, bro.
Yo,
that was hilarious. Oh,
I do remember David Stern one time coming in like BF to just like
he's from our town.
He's from Teaneck, yeah. He's from Teaneck.
Lawrence Frank visited one time too. Yeah, good times. Lawrence Frank, the coach of the Nets back in the day.
Oh, he did?
He's from
Teaneck
to
TJ or?
He came to TJ, yeah.
Oh, okay. He didn't come to BF. Nah, it's dope, bro. Regardless, this has been episode 12 of the D-Rod and Shaniac Sports Podcast. Keep boosting, following, sharing, subscribing all of our content all over the place. We're still everywhere. We said it last week, we'll say it again. 6 forms of media that you can consume us on.
Oh, yeah.
We got YouTube still. We got a couple of new playlists coming out. We got a couple little media clips coming out. Check us out on Twitter. Follow us at DRodNShaniac Pod. You can also follow us on Podbean, on Spotify, on Pandora Podcasts, on iHeartRadio. Am I missing one?
Apple Podcasts. Spotify. I don't know if you said Spotify. You probably did.
It's getting late.
What else? We're gonna be doing recaps for almost every Yankee game. Whether it might be both of us together, it might be just one, it might be both of us doing a separate video. Like today, I posted one on my personal channel. D-Rod posted one on the joint channel. You never know. So keep an eye out for that. If you haven't watched the games but you want to see what happened, we can give you a little update. It might be funny, it might not. So just keep an eye out for that. They're pretty interesting. You guys know where to find us. Follow me on my personal channel, MLB The Show Gameplay. You know, the new game comes out in a couple weeks. It's time to get cracking again. Let's do it.
See that new Clemente card?
It's about to be fun. Clemente, Fernando Valenzuela, Pedro is coming to the game. Prince Fielder is coming to the game. It's about to be a great year, bro.
Oh, it's gonna be
about to be a great year.
This again, episode 12 D-Rod and Shaniac Podcast. Please tune in next week. We got another episode coming for you. Probably episode 13. I don't know. That comes next in the sequence, I think. But anyway, keep coming.
All right, peace out. Later.